the unexpected danger. The alien ship was dark and silent, its metallic walls gleaming faintly under the dim, eerie light. Inside there was no sound except for the faint hum of machinery, as if the ship itself was alive, waiting for something. A quiet tension hung in the air, thick with the scent of ozone and the cold, unyielding atmosphere of space. At the center of a vast chamber, a young alien girl sat bound to an ancient stone altar. Her delicate features were strained with fear, her greenish skin reflecting the soft glow from the walls. Her large, luminous eyes darted around the room, scanning for any possible escape. But she knew there was no way out. The alien guards had made sure of that. She had been captured during a peaceful mission to a distant planet. She had never imagined that a simple trip would lead to such a terrifying fate. Now she was trapped in this foreign ship, surrounded by beings who seemed to relish in her fear. They called it the alien BBQ, a dark ritual that had been performed for centuries. The ritual was meant to extract energy from her, using her life force to fuel their ship and their power. The girl had heard whispers of this ritual among the alien communities, but she had never believed it was real. That was before she was taken. Now she knew the truth, and the truth was terrifying. As the minutes ticked by, she could feel her heart race. The cold metal of the altar against her back seemed to freeze her body as she struggled against the restraints that held her arms and legs in place. Her mind raced, looking for an answer, a way out. But no matter how hard she tried, the alien bindings didn't budge. She was helpless, and the only thing she could do now was wait. A faint sound broke through her thoughts. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. She knew it was them. The alien priests, the ones who would perform the ritual. They were coming for her, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She closed her eyes for a moment, hoping for some miracle, but deep down she knew she had no hope. The ceremony was about to begin. The doors to the chamber opened with a heavy groan. The alien priests entered, their cloaked figures moving silently across the room. Their glowing eyes glinted in the dim light, and their faces were hidden in shadow. The alien girl's breath hitched in her chest as she tried to hide her fear. She had to stay calm, had to think of a way to escape. But with every step they took toward her, her hope dwindled. One of the priests, taller and more imposing than the others, stepped forward. His voice was deep and resonated through the chamber as he spoke in a language she didn't understand. She tried to focus on his words, but they were lost on her. All she could hear was the pounding of her heart, the rapid beat that seemed to echo through the room. The priest raised his hand, signaling to the others. They moved with practiced precision, preparing the altar for the ritual. The girl could feel her body grow cold as they brought out strange instruments, their metal surfaces reflecting the light. Her mind swirled with panic. She couldn't let this happen. She had to find a way out, but how? Then, just as the priest was about to begin, a sudden noise echoed through the ship. A loud crashing sound followed by the sound of footsteps, human footsteps. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat. Someone was coming. But who? Could it be an ally? Or was it just another part of the ritual? The priest's attention shifted. His eyes narrowed, and he turned toward the source of the noise, his hands still raised. The other priests paused, waiting for the next move. The tension in the air grew thicker. The girl's pulse quickened, and for the first time since she had been captured, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. Could this be her chance? The footsteps grew louder, closer. The alien girl strained her ears, her breath shallow. She tried to twist her body slightly, just enough to see what was happening. But she was still trapped, still held down by the restraints that would not give. The door to the chamber suddenly burst open, and the light from the corridor flooded the room. A figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright light. The alien priests turned their attention to the new arrival, their hands instinctively reaching for their weapons. The girl's heart raced as the figure stepped into the room. It was a human. The alien girl's breath caught in her throat. She had heard stories about humans, brave, strong, and often unpredictable. But she had never expected one to be here, in this place, at this time. The human didn't hesitate. He was armed, and there was a look of determination in his eyes. He didn't seem afraid at all. Without a word, the human rushed forward, using the weapons in his hands to fight off the alien priests. The alien girl watched in awe as the human engaged the priests in combat. He moved with purpose, striking quickly and efficiently, each movement precise. It was clear that he was no ordinary human. He was here for a reason. The alien girl's eyes widened in disbelief. Could this really be happening? Was someone actually here to save her? The priests fought back, but they were not prepared for a human of this skill. The human hero ducked and dodged, landing blows with expert precision. The alien girl could hardly believe her eyes. Was this her rescue? Was this human truly here to save her from the ritual? The human's efforts were relentless. He fought with such ferocity that the alien priests began to retreat. The alien girl could feel a surge of hope rush through her as the last of the priests fell back. The human was winning. But even as the priests retreated, the tension was far from over. The girl knew there was still a long way to go before she was truly free, and as the human turned to face her, she realized that this was just the beginning of a much bigger journey, a journey she had never expected to take. The struggle begins. The alien girl's mind raced, her thoughts a blur as she lay there bound tightly to the cold stone altar. Her arms and legs were restrained with thick, unyielding ropes, each strand pulsing with a strange energy-filled glow. The alien priests who surrounded her were relentless in their preparations for the ritual. They moved with eerie precision, their eyes never leaving her as they carefully placed glowing symbols around the altar, drawing a circle of light that would seal her fate. Her body felt heavy, drained, as if every second she spent in this hellish chamber was sapping the very life from her. The pressure of the situation, the terror of what was about to happen, pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She had been captured during a peaceful mission, an explorer sent to study new worlds, but now she was a prisoner in an alien ship, about to become the sacrifice in a ritual she couldn't understand. She tried to focus, closing her eyes briefly, and for a moment, the world outside the chamber faded away. The deep hum of the ship's machinery, the eerie chanting of the priests, it all seemed distant as she recalled the bright skies of her home world. Her people, kind and peaceful, had always thrived in the balance of nature. Now all of that seemed a lifetime away. The smell of the fresh air, the feeling of the sun on her skin, those were things she might never experience again. The weight of despair was crushing. But deep down she knew she had to keep fighting. She was an alien, but she was still a living being with thoughts, dreams, and a desire to survive. She would not go down without a fight. She shifted slightly, testing the strength of the restraints. They were tight, and the more she struggled, the more they seemed to dig into her skin. But she didn't give up. Her people were known for their resilience, and though she had no weapons, no tools to help her, she was determined to escape. She had to. Her life depended on it. The air in the room was cold and dry, but sweat beaded on her forehead as she fought against the ropes. Her eyes darted around the chamber, scanning every inch for a weakness. There had to be something she could use, some way to break free. The altar was solid stone, but the symbols around her pulsed with an ominous energy. They seemed to be alive, feeding off her fear, and she could feel them drawing her energy, growing stronger with every breath she took. As she twisted her wrists in the restraints, a sharp pain shot through her limbs. Her mind screamed at her to stop, but she couldn't. She refused to accept her fate. She couldn't let herself become part of this twisted ritual. The priests were moving closer now, their chanting becoming louder, more intense. Their eyes glowed with a strange, otherworldly light as they began to prepare the final stage of the ceremony. She knew what would come next. The energy from the ritual would drain her life force, feeding the ship's power, fueling their dark magic. The thought of it made her stomach churn, but she steeled herself. This wasn't how she was going to end. The pressure around her chest tightened as the alien priests raised their arms in unison, their voices reaching a deafening crescendo. The girl's heart raced, but she forced herself to remain calm. She could still feel the connection to the outside world, a faint pulse of energy coming from the ship's outer shell. Her people had a unique gift. They could sense energy fields, manipulate them. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. She focused on that small spark of power, trying to channel it into her fingertips to create even the smallest distraction. Her hands began to tingle. The energy was weak, but it was enough to give her a sense of hope. She directed all her focus to the energy, willing it to grow, to shift the flow around her. For a moment the ropes seemed to loosen slightly, and the alien girl's heart leaped in her chest. But just as quickly the energy snapped back, stronger than before, and the restraints tightened once more. She gasped in frustration, the pain in her arms growing unbearable. But then something unexpected happened. The priests paused, their chanting halting for a brief moment. A strange noise echoed through the chamber, faint at first, like a distant rumble, but it grew louder, closer. The alien girl's eyes widened as she felt the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The hum of the ship had changed. It was as if something, or someone, was moving through the walls, a presence outside the chamber drawing closer with every passing second. Was it her imagination? Or was someone coming for her? The priests exchanged confused glances, their voices faltering as they turned to face the source of the disturbance. For a split second, the tension in the room shifted. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat. Could this be her chance? As if on cue, the loud, unmistakable sound of boots hitting the cold metal floor echoed from the corridor outside. The alien girl's breath caught in her throat. Was it possible? Could someone really be here to save her? The priest didn't seem to know what to make of the interruption. The leader of the priests, tall and intimidating, raised a hand to signal the others to remain alert. His glowing eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of the intruder. The alien girl held her breath, hoping beyond hope that this was no trick, no illusion. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until the door to the chamber suddenly exploded inward. The alien girl's eyes went wide in disbelief as a figure emerged from the blinding light of the hallway. It was a human. The girl's mind raced. A human? Was this a rescue? Or was she dreaming? Before she could process what was happening, the human dashed into the room, his movements fast and precise. The alien priests were caught off guard as the human fought back with unexpected skill, taking on multiple aliens at once. His presence was a whirlwind of energy and action. The alien girl watched in stunned silence, unable to believe what she was witnessing. Was this her savior? The fight erupted into chaos, but the human was relentless, determined to free her. His weapon, a strange but powerful device, whizzed through the air, striking down alien guards with ease. The alien girl's heart pounded as she realized the impossible was happening. Someone was actually coming to save her. But as the human made his way toward her, cutting through the last of the priest's defenses, the alien girl knew this wasn't the end. The battle had just begun, and there were more obstacles ahead. She had to trust this human hero, but could he really save her from this nightmare? The story was far from over. The moment of hope. The battle raged on, and the alien girl could hardly believe her eyes. The human, who had just moments before seemed like an impossible savior, was now cutting through the alien priests with an intensity and skill that was nothing short of extraordinary. He moved with a fluid grace, expertly navigating the chaos as his weapon struck down one alien guard after another. The alien girl had never seen anything like it. This human was a force to be reckoned with. But even as she watched the human's every move with awe, the danger was far from over. The alien priests, although stunned by the human's sudden appearance, quickly regrouped, their faces twisted with anger and disbelief as they rallied together, their glowing eyes flashing with an eerie, malevolent light. They had been caught off guard, yes, but they were not going to let a mere human ruin their centuries-old ritual. The leader of the priests, towering and imposing, stepped forward. His voice rang out low and threatening as he gestured to his remaining followers. "Don't let him interfere. Protect the ritual." The alien girl's heart sank. She could feel the strength of the priest's energy rising in the room as they prepared for a counterattack. The ritual wasn't over yet. She was still bound to the altar, still vulnerable, and the threat of becoming part of the alien BBQ loomed large. The human may have arrived, but he was still fighting an uphill battle, and time was running out. Despite the overwhelming odds, the human never faltered. His eyes were focused, and he moved with purpose, cutting down the alien priests one by one. Each strike was calculated, each movement precise, but he was only one person, and the aliens were many. The alien girl could see the human struggle as he faced off against the growing number of priests. She had to do something, anything, to help. Her body still felt weak from the restraints, and her arms and legs were sore from the tight bindings. But the alien girl refused to give in. She refused to let this human fight for her and lose. She couldn't stand by and wait any longer. Her mind whirled with possibilities. Could she use the faint energy she had left? Could she harness it to break free? Her people had always been able to manipulate energy fields in subtle ways. Nothing as grand as what the priests were capable of, but enough to make a difference in a situation like this. If she could just tap into that power one last time, she might be able to break free of the altar's hold. The alien girl focused all her remaining energy on her hands. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to concentrate. The ropes that bound her felt like they were made of steel, but she could sense the faint energy running through them. She reached out with her mind, trying to connect with the energy, trying to manipulate it. It was a slow, painful process. She had very little power left. But she wasn't ready to give up yet. She couldn't. As she struggled, she heard a sudden crash. The alien girl's eyes snapped open, and her breath caught in her throat as she saw the human hero standing at the far side of the chamber, surrounded by a circle of defeated alien priests. His chest heaved as he caught his breath, sweat trickling down his brow, but there was determination in his eyes. He had made it through the worst of the battle. But the leader of the priests was still standing, more powerful than ever and now glaring directly at the human. "You think you can defeat us, human?" The leader sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "This ritual is centuries old. You are nothing but an obstacle in our path." The human didn't flinch. Instead, he steadied himself and raised his weapon, preparing for the final confrontation. The alien girl could feel the electricity in the air. The tension was so thick she could taste it. Every second that passed was a second closer to the end of the ritual, to the moment when she would either be freed or become part of the priest's dark magic. But then, in that instant of chaos, she felt something. A pulse of energy, just a flicker, but enough. She gasped, her hands beginning to glow faintly. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give her hope. She reached deeper, pushing through the fatigue, her pulse matching the rhythm of the energy now coursing through her. Slowly but surely, she felt the restraints loosen. Her wrists, once bound so tightly, began to shift. The power was weak, but it was growing stronger. She could do this. She could free herself and help the human. The alien girl gritted her teeth, pushing harder, trying to control the energy without letting it overwhelm her. The ropes were slowly beginning to unravel, the faint glow around her wrists flickering with each movement. The human's battle with the leader of the priests intensified. The two were locked in a fierce exchange, the sound of their weapons clashing echoing through the chamber. The alien girl could feel the desperation rising in the air. She had to act quickly. With a final burst of energy, she broke free from the restraints. Her arms, still trembling from the strain, shot forward, and she grabbed one of the nearby weapons that had been discarded during the chaos. The alien girl wasn't as skilled as the human, but she was resourceful. She had to help. In a swift motion, she charged toward the leader of the priests, who was momentarily distracted by the human's assault. Without thinking, she swung the weapon with all her strength, knocking the priest off balance. The alien girl could see the surprise in his eyes as he staggered backward. The human, seeing the opening, took advantage of the distraction. With one final, powerful strike, he defeated the priest, sending him crashing to the ground. The room fell silent. The battle was over. The human hero stood victorious, but it wasn't just his strength that had won the day. It was the teamwork between them, an unexpected alliance that had saved her life. The alien girl stood, shaky but determined, and looked at the human, her eyes filled with gratitude. For the first time, she truly felt hope. She wasn't alone anymore, and together, they had overcome the impossible. The human hero arrives. The alien girl could hardly believe what she had just witnessed. The leader of the priests, now lying defeated at her feet, had been nothing but a figure of terror in her mind, a looming symbol of her inevitable fate. But the human, this strange and unlikely savior, had somehow fought his way through the odds, confronting the unimaginable and defying the rules of what seemed possible. The alien girl's heart was still racing, her body trembling from the intensity of everything that had just unfolded. She had been saved. But even as she allowed herself a moment of relief, she knew they weren't out of danger yet. The priest had fallen, but there were still other dangers lurking in the shadows of the alien ship. The alien girl's eyes quickly darted to the chamber's exit, scanning for any signs of other enemies. She knew the priest's influence ran deep, and this ship wasn't just a vessel, it was a fortress. The human hero, still breathing heavily from the battle, turned toward her. His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment the world seemed to slow down. They were both standing in the center of a ruined chamber, surrounded by defeated alien priests, and yet the tension was far from over. It wasn't just about escaping the immediate threat. It was about what came next. "You're safe," the human said, his voice low but full of conviction. The alien girl could hear the weariness in his tone, the exhaustion from the battle. But there was something else there too, a sense of determination, a promise that he would do everything in his power to protect her. She nodded slowly, her heart still racing. "How did you—" Her voice trailed off, not sure how to articulate her astonishment. How had this human found her? How had he known she was in danger? The human smiled faintly, wiping a smear of alien blood from his brow. "I'm not sure, to be honest," he replied. "I was sent here to find you. Someone believed you were in trouble. But when I arrived, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to find you tied to an altar, about to be sacrificed." His gaze softened as he looked at her, something in his eyes that made her feel less like a victim, and more like a person once again. "I couldn't just stand by." The alien girl blinked, processing his words. A human sent to find her? The idea felt almost surreal. She had never expected anyone from outside her own species, let alone a human, to risk everything for her. Humans, after all, were creatures of war, of conflict. But this human, had come to her aid when no one else could. She didn't know how to feel about it. But there was no time for questions, no time for confusion. They had to move quickly. The room was still heavy with tension, and while the priests had been defeated, there was always the possibility of reinforcements. "We need to get out of here," she said, her voice stronger now, determination building within her. "This ship isn't safe. There's more danger ahead. If they haven't already called for backup, they will." The human nodded immediately. "Agreed, I can help you, but you need to lead the way." "I don't know this ship. I'm not familiar with its layout." She nodded, taking in the human's words. The adrenaline from the battle was still coursing through her veins, making her feel sharper, more aware of everything around her. She could sense the flow of energy in the ship, the hum of its engines and the pulsing lights in the walls. But most of all, she felt the weight of the situation. They needed to escape, and fast. With her newfound strength, she started walking toward the door, careful not to draw attention to herself. The human followed close behind, his steps steady and deliberate. She could sense that he was ready for anything, that his mind was focused entirely on getting them both to safety. There was a moment of silence between them, a quiet understanding that no words could fully express. The only sound was the soft shuffle of their footsteps echoing through the corridor. As they moved deeper into the ship, the alien girl couldn't help but steal glances at her companion. He was different from any human she had ever encountered. He wasn't just a soldier or a fighter. He had something else, something that went beyond just physical strength. It was courage, yes, but it was more than that. It was his determination to do what was right, to stand up against the odds and to help those who couldn't help themselves. She had seen humans before, on missions, in passing, but never like this. Never as the person who would save her. And as they moved through the corridors, she began to understand just how much this human cared about her survival. The ship's walls were narrow and cold, with strange symbols and markings scattered across the surfaces. The alien girl's eyes flicked from side to side, her mind scanning the space for potential threats. She knew this ship well enough to understand that it was full of traps, hidden rooms, false doors, and areas that led nowhere. There were also systems that could be activated remotely, doors that locked themselves, and sections of the ship that could be sealed off. Every move had to be calculated. "We have to get to the escape pods," she said, quietly breaking the silence. "I know the way. But it's not going to be easy. The deeper we go, the more dangerous it gets. We have to be careful." The human nodded, his face set in determination. "I trust you. Lead the way." As they continued down the winding hallways, the alien girl couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The energy in the ship was shifting, and she could feel the faint vibrations in the walls. It wasn't just the normal hum of the machinery. There was something more, a strange pull, a gathering of forces that she couldn't explain. She could sense that the priests hadn't given up. Their dark influence still lingered in the ship, and the leader's defeat had not been the end. "There's something wrong," she murmured under her breath. "The energy here feels unstable. They're not done yet. We're being hunted." The human's gaze sharpened, and he adjusted his grip on the weapon he had taken from one of the fallen priests. "Then we'll make sure they don't catch us." They moved faster now, their steps quickening as they approached the escape pods. The sound of distant alarms began to echo throughout the ship, low, ominous, and urgent. The alien girl's heart began to race again. They were running out of time. With the human by her side, she knew they stood a chance. But would it be enough? Could they escape the ship before it was too late? The suspense was unbearable as they neared their destination, the air thick with the promise of danger and the unknown. The tension between the two grew with every step, and for the first time since she had been captured, the alien girl felt a sense of unity. With the human by her side, there was hope. There was a chance. And in this moment, That was all she needed to survive. The heart-stopping rescue. The escape was not going as smoothly as the alien girl had hoped. Despite her efforts to lead the human through the labyrinth of corridors and escape routes, every corner they turned seemed to bring them closer to danger. The alarms were blaring now, the high-pitched wail echoing off the metal walls, signaling that the ship's defense systems had been activated. The weight of the situation pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. They were being hunted, and she could feel it. Every shadow, every creak in the walls was another enemy closing in. The human hero stayed close to her side, his presence a steady force amidst the chaos. He moved with practiced precision, scanning every corner, every hallway, always one step ahead. His weapon was still in hand, ready for anything. But the alien girl could tell he was getting exhausted. The fight against the priests had taken a toll on him, and now, with the ship's security system actively seeking them out, the risk was higher than ever. "We need to keep moving," she urged, her voice tight with urgency. "The escape pods are just ahead, but there's a security checkpoint we'll need to get past first. It's heavily guarded." The human nodded, his expression grim but determined. "We'll make it through. Stick to the plan." As they approached the checkpoint, the tension in the air grew even thicker. The alien girl could hear the distant sounds of alien patrols, their voices low and menacing as they searched the ship for intruders. The girl's heart raced faster, and she could feel the cold sweat forming on her skin. Time was slipping away and the escape route was shrinking. Every second brought them closer to being caught, and every footstep behind them sounded like a countdown. They reached the checkpoint, a small but fortified entryway that led to the final stretch of their escape. The security system was armed with motion detectors, laser grids, and automated sentries. It had been designed to keep anyone from getting through. The girl's mind raced. She could see the layout of the room in her mind's eye, but the challenge would be getting past it without triggering an alarm. "We'll need to disable the security systems," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can do it, but I'll need a few minutes to hack into the system." The human glanced around, scanning the hallway for signs of any approaching guards. "I'll cover you. Just be quick." With the stakes higher than ever, the alien girl stepped forward, her fingers brushing against the control panel beside the checkpoint door, her mind connected with the ship's systems as she focused, channeling all of her energy into the task. She had done this before. On her home planet, manipulating technology was second nature. But here, on the alien ship, it felt like there were more obstacles, more layers to peel back. The girl's heart raced as her fingers danced across the panel, bypassing security measures and cutting through layers of encryption. She could feel the energy flowing through the ship's systems, but something felt off. The control panel was responding slower than it should, as if something or someone was interfering with her efforts. The alien girl clenched her jaw. The ship's AI was trying to block her. She wasn't going to let it stop her. The human stood by, his eyes never leaving the corridor, watching for any signs of danger. His breathing was slow, measured, but his muscles were tense, ready for a fight at a moment's notice. His trust in her was unwavering, but the pressure was building with each passing second. Come on," the alien girl muttered to herself, pushing through the resistance. The motion detectors blinked red, and the laser grids buzzed in the air. Sweat trickled down her face as she felt the walls of the ship closing in around them. One wrong move, and they'd both be trapped. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she felt the system give way. The security measures flickered, then shut down entirely. The laser grids died, and the motion detectors turned off. The checkpoint was no longer a barrier. It was clear. "We're in," the alien girl said, breathing a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. They weren't safe yet. The human gave her a quick nod. "Let's go." They rushed forward, moving quickly but carefully through the now open checkpoint. The hallways beyond were dimly lit, but they offered no cover. The alien girl's eyes darted around, scanning the shadows for any signs of movement. She could feel the presence of the ship's security forces closing in, and the final stretch to the escape pods felt like a lifetime away. As they rounded a corner, they ran straight into a group of alien guards. The human was quick, taking the lead without hesitation. He dove into action, taking down two of the guards with quick, decisive movements. The alien girl, though still recovering from the ordeal, followed suit. Using her heightened senses, she was able to take down one guard with a swift strike to the back of the neck. The sound of the battle echoed in the narrow hallways as they fought to stay one step ahead. Despite the chaos, The alien girl couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration for the human. His skill, his determination, it was unlike anything she had seen before. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for her freedom, and that thought filled her with both gratitude and awe. The last guard fell to the ground with a thud, and the human turned toward her, his face tense but focused. "We're almost there," he said, his voice low and urgent. They continued down the hallway, their footsteps echoing louder now. The escape pods were just around the corner. The end was in sight, but just as they reached the final stretch, a door slammed open in front of them. More guards, dozens of them rushing toward them in a flood of movement. The alien girl's heart dropped, but the human didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, his stance unwavering, his weapon raised. "This is it," he said, his voice calm despite the danger. "Get to the pods. I'll hold them off." The alien girl's heart pounded in her chest. She knew what was coming, and she couldn't bear the thought of leaving him behind. But they were almost free. She couldn't hesitate. With a final look at the human, she turned and sprinted toward the escape pods, praying that they would make it in time. Behind her, the human hero fought with everything he had, holding the alien forces off just long enough for her to reach the safety of the pods. In that final, desperate run, the alien girl understood the truth. She wasn't just being rescued. She was fighting for her life, and she wasn't going to let anyone take it away from her again. As the escape pod's door closed behind her, sealing her fate, she felt a mixture of fear, relief, and something else, hope. She was going to survive this. And with the human hero by her side, she knew that the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The escape pod hummed to life, its thrusters igniting as the alien girl strapped herself into the cockpit. The door closed with a heavy metallic hiss, sealing her inside. The sudden jarring isolation of the pod felt like a sharp contrast to the chaos she had just left behind. The sounds of battle, the blaring alarms, the echoes of the ship's defenses, all of it faded into a quiet hum as the pod's engines roared to life. She was free, or so she thought. But as the alien girl looked out the small viewport, she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't entirely out of danger yet. The ship loomed large outside, its jagged silhouette etched against the stars, and as her hands gripped the pod's controls, the reality of the situation began to settle in. Her escape was only the beginning. They still had to survive. The human hero's words echoed in her mind. "I'll hold them off. Get to the pods." His voice had been firm, unwavering. She had trusted him, and now she was flying solo, unsure of what was waiting for her beyond the immediate safety of the pod. Would he be okay? Was he still alive? She didn't dare look back, but the doubt gnawed at her. She had left him behind to fight, and the weight of that decision felt heavy on her chest. The escape pod shot forward, breaking through the ship's outer hull with a screech of metal as the pod tore free from the hold of the alien ship. The void of space opened up before her, vast and silent, an endless sea of stars scattered like dust across the dark canvas. The ship that had once been her prison now shrank into the distance, a fading speck of light. For a moment, the alien girl allowed herself to breathe, the suffocating tension of the ship finally beginning to lift. She was safe for now, but that sense of safety was fleeting. Her heart was still racing. She had been so close to death, so close to becoming part of the ritual, and yet now she was free. Or was she? The pod's controls buzzed as she tried to plot a course toward a nearby planet, a sanctuary of sorts. It was the only place she could think of where they might be able to regroup, where she could breathe and figure out what came next. But the deeper she looked into the pod systems, the more she realized that they had been damaged during the escape. The ship's autopilot was malfunctioning, and it was going to take more than just simple repairs to get them to safety. Her thoughts shifted as she recalibrated the controls. She couldn't afford to waste any time. The alien ship might be far behind her, but their presence was still felt. The military-grade sensors of the ship's defense system would surely be able to track her pod. Her escape wouldn't be the end of this pursuit. It was just the beginning. Her hand hovered over the communications panel. There was a chance to reach out for help, but it was a long shot. The message would be faint, likely intercepted by the aliens. But it was all she had. She activated the distress signal, sending out a weak, fragmented transmission into the void, hoping anyone would hear it. But as she leaned back in the seat, her mind still filled with questions. She couldn't shake the feeling that her freedom was a fragile thing, one that could be taken away in an instant. The seconds stretched on as the escape pod glided silently through the stars. Her eyes flicked to the monitor, watching the distance between her and the alien ship grow. She had no idea where the human hero was or if he had made it out. It was maddening, this uncertainty. Had he escaped? Was he still fighting? Still out there somewhere? The thought of leaving him behind left a hollow pit in her stomach. But she had to move forward. She couldn't afford to wait for him forever. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden jolt. The escape pod lurched violently, sending her forward in her seat. Alarms blared and the ship's systems began to fail. The pod was shaking, rattling as if it were being dragged through space by an unseen force. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat as she tried to steady the controls, her hands flying over the buttons in a frenzy. Come on, she muttered under her breath, trying to stabilize the pod as it bucked in the weightless void. She could hear the sound of the outer hull creaking, the strain of pressure building as the ship fought to maintain control. Suddenly, the ship's AI voice crackled through the speakers. Warning! Hull integrity compromised. Energy levels at critical. The transmission cut off abruptly as the ship began to spin out of control. The alien girl's eyes widened in panic as the pod spiraled through space, completely at the mercy of the malfunctioning controls. She was hurtling toward an asteroid field. Jagged rocks and debris scattered in every direction, waiting to tear her apart. Desperation flooded her as she fought to right the ship, her hands gripped tightly to the controls. This was it. She was going to die out here, alone. A small, weak ship, tumbling through the cold emptiness of space. Her breathing grew shallow, and for a moment she thought of the human. Was he still alive? Was he out there somewhere? A loud bang echoed from the hull as the pod collided with debris. The ship groaned under the pressure, and for a moment everything went black. When her vision cleared, she saw stars again. But this time they were different. The pod had crashed. The pod had landed. The alien girl's pulse pounded in her ears as she scanned her surroundings. The ship had landed on a rocky, barren surface. An unknown planet? She was on the ground in one piece, but her escape pod had been badly damaged. She couldn't stay here. The alien forces would find her. They would track her down. She tried to open the pod's hatch, but it wouldn't budge. The impact had warped the frame, sealing her inside. The girl's heart thudded in her chest as she frantically searched for a way out. It wasn't over. The human might still be alive somewhere out there, and she wasn't going to give up. She wasn't going to stop fighting. Not now, not ever.